Hi, everybody. My name is Rishi. Again, day 2 of the 10-day course. Today, we're going to do some ACT and SAT practice. Basically, what that means is I'm going to give you a couple questions from an ACT English test and a couple questions from an SAT reading test to be the initial test that you see, just in case some of you have never seen an ACT or SAT before. And then I'm going to give you a similar test at the end of our course and see your improvement. I've ran this course before in real life, and every student that I've been with has increased at least 2 questions out of, let's just say 10, 15, 2 questions that have gone up for every test. So that means there is a proven connection between Latin and standardized tests. So let's get into it. So I hope everyone had a chance to look through this test and answer it by themselves. Just the last 15 questions, questions 61 through 75. Now I'm going to go through the answers and explain why each answer is what it is. If you didn't have time to look at it, you can just listen to this answer. But if not, the link is in bio to this test and especially to these last 15 questions. Let's get into it. Okay, so for 61, the answer is C. Okay, so when you look at this question, it says 900 years ago, Emperor Zedong of China ordered the design and construction of a clock. So if you look at A, no change. So Emperor Zedong of China. So if you picked A, there would be no subject 900 years ago. And remember, things that are blocked off in comma, you can kind of just erase. So if you wanted to, so erase the line, it'll be 900 years ago ordered. See, that's not correct grammatically. So it cannot be A. So now let's check B. So 900 years ago, comma, Emperor Zedong, comma, of China ordered. So let's again cancel off the commas. So let's remove the comma from Emperor Zedong. So it would just be 900 years ago of China ordered. That doesn't make sense either. So B is not grammatically correct. Now let's go to D. So for D, 900 years ago, Emperor Zedong of China, comma, ordered. So that's separating a dependent clause and not even an independent clause. It's basically just causing a separation where there does not need to be a separation, where there can't be a separation. This is incorrect as well, because now there's literally no subject and there's still a verb. So this is grammatically incorrect. So the answer had to be C. 900 years ago, comma, Emperor Zedong of China ordered the design and construction of a clock. So that is the answer, C. The only one that allows a subject and verb agreement. Now let's move on. 62. So Emperor Zedong of China ordered the design and construction of a clock built to keep time more accurately than other clocks. So the answer for 62 is J. So the reason for this is, if you just look at all the options for F, and construction of a clock built to keep time more accurately than other clocks. You never want to, the ACT loves to ask questions about repetition. In this question, it already states construction of a clock. By stating built to keep time, construction is the same as built. So they're seeing if you understand that there's repetition in the sentence, and they're looking for the most concise answer. The ACT loves the most concise answer. I cannot stress that enough. Concise is key. So for 62, J is the most concise answer, more accurate than any other. If you look at F, built to keep time more accurately than any other clocks, that's so repetitive. G, to keep time more accurately than clocks that had previously come before it, super long, it's the same as J. The same sentence, just way longer. They want conciseness. H, more accurate at keeping time correctly than any clock of that time. Again, just repetitive. We already said clock. You don't need to repeat clock again. More accurate than any other is the most concise and most clear. J is the answer. See, for this, all the other answer choices are correct. However, they're just too long and they're not concise. That is why J is the most correct answer choice. Okay, so 63, let's move on. This would be no simple timepiece, and because Chinese dynasties continued to strategy, they relied on complicated clocks. So yes, let's do 63. So for 63, the answer is B. Timepiece period because. So this would be no simple timepiece, and because Chinese dynasties continued to astrology, so there needs to be a separation between these two things, because they're two different sentences. So if you look at the answer choices, for A, there's no separation between the two. For B, there's a period. For C, there's a comma. However, there can't be a comma here. Otherwise, if you see it says they relied further on, that's an independent sentence. And this would be no simple timepiece is also an independent statement. So there needs to be either a comma in conjunction here, or a semicolon, or a period. And the only option that has that is B. So that's why B is the correct answer for 63. Okay, so let's move on. 64. So, Chinese dynasties continued to astrology. They relied on complicated clocks that not only kept time but also helped track stars. So for this question, the answer is G. So Chinese dynasties continued to astrology. So continue does not make sense here. So it's definitely not F. H, linked to astrology, that doesn't make sense here either. Chinese dynasties linked to astrology. Because Chinese dynasties linked to astrology, they relied on complicated clocks that not only kept time but also helped track stars. That doesn't make very much sense here. Adhered means stuck to, right? And that's G, stuck to. So because Chinese dynasties stuck to astrology or adhered to astrology, they relied on complicated clocks that not only kept time but also helped track stars. That makes the most sense out of all of these questions. And the ACT does love this type of questions too. But at the end of the day, it just comes to your vocab knowledge. And these questions can be hard. But if you just know the vocab, you'll know the answer. And I hopefully the Latin will help with some of these things. Okay, 65. So an eminent scientist and bureaucrat named Su Song led Zedong's ambitious project. Okay, so for 65. So if you're looking at this, the answer is D. So eminent. So what the ACT wants you to know here is the difference between imminent and eminent, and also they want you to know the difference between led and lead. So this whole passage has been in past tense, right? So it obviously cannot be lead. It has to be led. So that limits the chances the choices A and B. This is also a very good tip for the ACT. You want to limit as many answer choices as possible. So now it comes to C or D. Is it imminent or eminent? Well, imminent, the definition of imminent is about to happen. So it's like imminent. So, however, in this sentence, imminent means about to happen, right? And that doesn't really make sense here. So the answer is eminent, D, because eminent means a famous and respected person within their profession. So imminent means like it's something that's about to occur. But eminent is someone who's famous. And the one that works here is eminent. Again, testing vocabulary. That's another tip for the ACT. And they love to test vocabulary, showing you how vocabulary is very important. Okay, 66. So, given that all the choices are accurate, which one best indicates that Zhu Zong relied on engineering achievements from earlier times? Okay, so the answer for 66 is G, or building on centuries of Chinese clock-making knowledge. So, this is another question the ACT loves to teach or loves to give, and that's given that all the choices are correct or accurate. So for these questions, they kind of give you the answer in the question. So it specifically says which one best indicates that Zhu Zong relied on engineering achievements from earlier times. G specifically says building on centuries of Chinese clock-making knowledge. So that's relying on engineering achievements from centuries before, and that is earlier times. So that's why G is correct. If you look at H, while authoring his treatise on astronomical clockwork, that doesn't talk about earlier. And then J, after first crafting a working small-scale wooden model, that's not talking about earlier, like from earlier times. And for 66, it says using his expertise in calendrical science. That's also not talking about earlier times. Building on centuries of Chinese clock-making knowledge specifically and clearly states how he's building or expanding on earlier times. And that is why G is the correct answer. Okay, so for 67 is A, no change. This is a common one for the ACT. They love no change type of questions. So Su Song created a spectacular timepiece housed within an ornate 40-foot tall tower. If you look at these choices, secured between an ornate 40-foot tall tower. That doesn't really make sense. You can't be secured between a spectacular timepiece cannot be secured between something. Encased around, that doesn't make sense either. Or nestled among. See, these prepositions do not go well with these verbs. However, housed within makes sense. And that is why it's the best answer choice for these questions. I do not know what that is, but let's continue. Okay. 68. 68, the answer is G. Spear with a dash. So, dash questions are pretty simple. If there's another dash in the sentence, then you also put a dash in the sentence. So, for this question, as you can see, if you look below, 2 lines below, you can see or a nest of metal rings representing celestial reference points such as a horizon and the sun's path, dash. So since there's a dash below, you're going to want to have a dash above, and that's why the answer is G. Pretty simple. 69. Okay, so 69 is C. Lastly. So for this question, if you read it, it says, besides below the star spear, the tower opens sides expose a detailed model of a 5-story pagoda. So, thinking about this, besides makes no sense here. So, cancel off A. Sooner or later also makes no sense here. Thus, if you look before, it doesn't really talk about below the star spear. So, thus doesn't really make sense either. So, the only answer choice is lastly, which makes sense because it's the last paragraph of this, the last chunk of this paragraph. Saying that lastly, below the star spear, the tower's open sides expose a detailed model of a 5-story pagoda. That makes sense. So the answer is C. A lot of these things you can just sound out and see which one makes best sense in your head. And that's why the answer is C. 70. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portions would not be acceptable? Okay, so which of the following would not be acceptable? Let's think about this one. So automated figurines would appear in the pagoda's doorways and ring bells to announce hours, sunsets, seasons, and other chronological events. So which one would not be acceptable? So what they gave us is acceptable. So now we have to see which one won't be. So the answer for 70 is G. The bells, they announced. So the reason this is not acceptable is because they're giving you an independent statement. So you need a dependent clause to go with it. Otherwise, you'll have 2 independent statements without any comma in conjunction or without any separation. That is why you have to pick the one that has separation or gives you a subordinate or dependent clause. So for F, bells, which serve to announce hours, sunsets, seasons, and other chronological events, that works grammatically because it's a dependent statement. H, bells that announced, again, another dependent statement. Bells, announcing hours, sunsets, seasons, and other chronological events, again, is a dependent clause. G, however, is an independent clause. Bells, they announced hours, sunsets, that's a whole nother sentence. So that's 2 sentences without a separation, and that's not grammatically allowed. So that's why G does not work. 71, the answer is A. The clock's inner workings were equally remarkable. So this one, again, a no change question. The ACT loves to know if you know which ones are not changed or which ones can be no change. So don't just think there's always something wrong. So this one, there's nothing wrong with this sentence. If you look at the other options, they're way too complicated, and the ACT loves concise, clear answers. They're all so complicated, and they're showing the same thing. The clock's inner workings were equally remarkable. Not has proved remarkable, equally remarkable, was shown to be equally remarkable, or reveals themselves as being equally remarkable. Those are just so many words for the same idea, and that's why were is the shortest and the most concise. And that's why the answer is no change. 72. Therefore, water would pour at a constant rate into one of the wheel's 36 buckets. So this is another common question on the ACT. And the answer for this one is J, which is water. So the ACT loves to ask questions such as, do you need this here? Do you need this there? So they're giving you a couple transition words like therefore and other words, for example. But do you really need that transition word for the sentence to make sense? If you don't, do not put a transition word. They want the most concise answer. And the most concise answer here is J, water. Water would pour out at a constant rate. You don't need therefore or in other words or for example. So if you don't need something, don't add it. That's a great tip for the ACT. Okay, so let's move on. 73. 73, the answer is A, no change. Again, another no change question. I can't stress enough how the ACT loves no change questions. So let's read it. Then a stop mechanism halted the wheel and positioned the next bucket for filling. Chinese clockmakers had long used water wheels, but Susong's stop mechanism, which regulated the inertia of the water wheel, represented significant innovation. Okay, so you need a separation sentence here, right? These are two independent clauses connected by a conjunction, which is but. Okay, you need a conjunction here. So you shouldn't delete the underlined portion here because you need it. You need something to separate these two clauses. Nevertheless does not make sense either here. Nevertheless does not make sense either here because it's not a conjunction, nor does regardless. And but is the conjunction which is separating the two clauses, which is why it's the correct answer. So 73 is A. Okay, so 74. Let's get into it. So 74, the answer is G. Again, so if you look at this statement, you need a comma to separate, or comma or some type of, separation, to separate the width, the refinement of mechanical clocks in Europe from the rest of the sentence. Because if you translate it, it goes like this. It would be a few hundred years until, with the refinement of mechanical clocks in Europe, other clocks approach the complexity of Susong's masterpiece. So you need something to block off the width from to Europe, that whole piece. So if you look at the options, you can't do no change here. You also can't do H because nothing blocks it off. And in J, you're blocking it off too early. You're only blocking off with the refinement. That's why you have to use the dashes again to block off that sentence. And a dash is the same thing as just a double comma. Think of it as like an extended comma or like an extended pause until, with the refinement of mechanical clocks in Europe, another pause. So just a pause. So that's why G is the correct answer. And finally, for 75, A is the correct answer. No change. Again, another no change question. And the reason for this is that all of the other answer choices are so long and so complex, and they're saying the same thing as approach the complexity. And approach the complexity is the shortest one, which is ironic because it says complexity, but it's the most concise one, and that is why 75 is A, no change, and the other options are just too long. So the key takeaways from this is that the ACT loves no change questions, so don't be afraid if you feel like there's no change. Additionally, make sure you know you're picking the shortest and most concise answer and the clearest answer that makes sense. Don't circle something unless you like if it's not needed, don't circle it. You understand? Like if they give you like a transition word, don't just put a random transition word just to like make it, you're just adding words. Like never add words. You want to subtract as many words as possible. That's what the ACT is trying to teach you, to not be repetitive. So make sure you subtract words, don't add them. And that should be it. Those are my main takeaways for this lesson. And to know what a dash is just an extended pause. So that's it. Thank you all so much for your time. And I will now go to the SAT reading section. Hi, everybody. I hope you all had a chance to read through this reading test, test 1. Just the first 10 questions and then answer it yourself. If not, you can just go through it with me and we'll go through why each answer is how it is. And the link is in bio for this test if you have not seen it, and I would recommend you just reading it and trying it for yourself. But let's get into it. So, question 1. Which choice best describes what happens in the passage? So the answer to question 1 is B. In the passage, a young man, Akira, asked some mother, Chi, for permission to marry her daughter, Naomi. The request was certainly surprising to the mother, as can be seen from line 47, which states that prior to Akira's question, Chi had no idea the request was coming. Choice A is incorrect because the passage depicts two characters engaged in civil conversation, with Chi being impressed with Akira's sincerity and finding herself starting to like him. Choice C is incorrect because the passage is focused on the idea of Akira's and Naomi's present lives and possible futures. Choice D is incorrect because the interactions between Chi and Akira are polite, not critical. For example, Chi views Akira with amusement, not animosity. Thus, B is correct. One character receives a surprising request from another character. Okay, question 2. Which choice best describes the developmental pattern of the passage? Again, B is the best answer. The passage centers on a night when a young man tries to get approval to marry a woman's daughter. The passage includes detailed descriptions of setting, where it says a winter's eve in a cold rain on lines 5 to 6, and character, like when it says Akira's soft, refined voice on line 33, and Akira's eyes shining with sincerity on line 35. Additionally, it talks about plot, where it says Naomi was silent. She stood a full half minute looking straight into Chi's eyes. Finally, she spoke. That's on line 88 through 89. Choice A is incorrect because the passage focuses on a non-traditional marriage proposal. Choice C is incorrect because the passage concludes without resolution to the question of whether Akira and Naomi will receive permission to marry. And choice D is incorrect because the passage repeatedly makes clear that for Chi, her encounter with Akira is momentous and unsettling, as when Akira acknowledges in line 73 that he has startled her. So that leaves us with answer B, a detailed description of a meaningful encounter. Okay, let's move on. Question 3. So C is the best answer for this question. So Akira, in line 1, Akira came directly, breaking all tradition, when he approached Chi and asked to marry her daughter. And he asked directly without a go-between on line 65, or mediation, because doing otherwise would have taken too much time. Choices A, B, and D are incorrect because in these contexts, directly does not mean in a frank or confident or precise manner. It means without mediation. So that's why C is the best answer choice. Okay, let's move on. Question 4. Choice A is the best answer for this question. Akira is very concerned Chi will find his marriage proposal inappropriate because he did not follow traditional protocol and use a go-between, which is said on line 65. This is clear in lines 63 through 64 when Akira says to Chi, "Please don't judge my candidacy by unseemliness of this proposal." Choice B is incorrect because there's no evidence in the passage that Akira worries that Chi will mistake his earnestness for immaturity. Choice C is incorrect because while Akira recognizes this unscheduled visit is a nuisance, his larger concern is that Chi will reject him due to the inappropriateness of his proposal. Choice D is incorrect because there's no evidence in the passage that Akira worries Chi will underestimate the sincerity of his emotions. Thus, choice A is the best answer. She will consider his proposal inappropriate. Okay, let's move on. Question 5. So, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Choice C is the best answer. In lines 63 to 65, or 63 to 64, Akira says to Chi, "Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseamlessness of this proposal." This reveals Akira's concern that Chi may say no to the proposal simply because Akira did not follow traditional practices. Choices A, B, and D do not provide the best evidence for the answer to the previous question. Choice A is incorrect because line 33 merely describes Akira's voice as soft and refined. Choice B is incorrect because lines 49 through 51 reflect Chi's perspective, not Akira's. And choice D is incorrect because lines 71 through 72 indicate only that Akira was speaking in an eager and forthright manner. Thus, line C, or number C, or letter C is the correct answer. So question 6, let's get into it. In the passage, Akira addresses Chi with, the best answer is D, because Akira clearly treats Chi with respect, including bowing on line 26 to her and calling her madam on line 31, and looking at her with a deferential peak, line 34. Akira does not offer Chi utter deference, though, as he asks to marry Naomi after he concedes that he is not following protocol and admits to being a disruption, line 31. Choice A is incorrect because while Akira conveys respect to Chi, there's no evidence in the passage that he feels affection for her. Choice B is incorrect because neither objectivity nor impartiality accurately describes how Akira addresses Chi. Choice C is incorrect because Akira conveys respect to Chi and takes the conversation seriously. So the answer that's correct is D, respect but not utter deference. Okay, question 7. Choice D, again, is the best answer. The first paragraph, lines 1 through 4, reflect on how Akira approached Chi to ask for her daughter's hand in marriage. In these lines, the narrator is wondering whether Chi would have been more likely to say yes to Akira's proposal if Akira had followed tradition. Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. What was that? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between? Would Chi have been more receptive? Thus, the main purpose of the first paragraph is to examine why Chi reacted a certain way to Akira's proposal. Choice A is incorrect because the first paragraph describes only one aspect of Japanese culture, marriage proposals, but not the culture as a whole. Choice B is incorrect because the first paragraph implies a criticism of Akira's individual marriage proposal, but not the entire tradition of Japanese marriage proposals. Choice C is incorrect because the narrator does not question a suggestion. Thus, the answer that's correct is choice D. Analyze a reaction. Okay, let's move on. Question 8. Choice B is the best answer for question 8. In line 1, the narrator suggests that Akira's direct approach broke all tradition. The narrator then wonders if Akira had followed form or the tradition expected of him. Would she have been more receptive to his proposal? In this context, following form thus means following a certain tradition or custom. Choices A, C, and D are incorrect because in this context, form does not mean the way something looks or appearance, the way it is built or structured, or its essence, which is nature. Thus, the correct answer is B, which is custom. Question 9. Why does Akira say his meaning with Chi is a matter of urgency? For this question, C is the best answer. Akira states that his unexpected meeting with Chi occurred only because of a matter of urgency, which he explains as an opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community, which is in lines 41 through 42. Akira decides to directly speak to Chi because Chi's response to his marriage proposal affects whether Akira accepts the job offer. Choice A is incorrect because there's no evidence in the passage that Akira is worried his parents will not approve of Naomi. Choice B is incorrect because Akira has an understanding with Naomi on line 63. Choice D is incorrect. While Akira might not know that Chi is unaware of his feelings for Naomi, this is not what he's referring to when he mentions a matter of urgency. Thus, the correct answer is C, which is he has been offered an attractive job in another country. Okay, so last question, question 10. Choice B is the best answer. In lines 39 through 42, Akira clarifies that the matter of urgency is that he has an opportunity to go through America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. Akira needs Chi's answer to his marriage proposal so he can decide whether to accept the job in Seattle. Choices A, C, and D do not provide the best evidence for the answer to the previous question. Choice A is incorrect because in line 39, Akira apologizes for interrupting Chi's quiet evening. Choice C is incorrect because lines 58 through 59 address the seriousness of Akira's request, not its urgency. Choice D is incorrect because line 73 shows only that Akira's proposal has startled Chi and does not explain why his request is time sensitive. Thus, the best answer choice is B, which is lines 39 through 42, where it talks about his opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. So yes, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. This explains the passage for Akira and the SAT reading passage and the ACT writing passage, and I hope you all understood and got a better gist of it. This was just an initial test, so don't worry even if you got a lot wrong, because as you learn the Latin, it will help you out on a lot of these tests, especially the vocab and other things. And this is just the first test, the initial test of the 10-day process, and just wait till the last test. There will be improvement. Thank you all so much for your time, and goodbye.